Section 26, subsection 1 and 2 states that everyone has the right to have access to adequate housing and that the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of this right. Today, Velemseni Mthiyane is explaining and verifying whether ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa promised to build 1 million houses in Alexandra. Veli, it's over to you.
Well, good evening to you, Mfundo. The hopes raised by the African National Congress coming into power in 1994 have been dashed for millions of poor South Africans who are still without a decent roof over their heads. Political parties have all campaigned on the issue of housing, promising various ways in which they can improve the provision of the housing. On the 11th of April 2019, the African National Congress held an election rally in the Alexandra township, and the ANC president made a promise regarding the building of 1 million houses under the next term if the ANC wins the next elections. Then, let's listen to what President Cyril Ramaphosa said, and together with what the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, said when he raised the issue recently in Parliament. Let's listen.
President, it is leadership to admit when you have made a mistake. You can't come here and say you never promised the people of Alexandra 1 million houses. You said so. You said you are going to build 1 million houses for the people of Alexandra.
Ngahamba no minister wethu we-human settlements wezindlu bane-program mamelani kahle bane-program ebhekane nalo leli lonke lakithi lase-South Africa. I-program ethi sisazowakha izindlu ezilingana no-1 million. 1 million yezindlu zizowakhiwa lezo zindlu lapha e-Alexandra mamelani. Lapha e-Alexandra sisazobhekisisa kahle indaba yomhlaba. Sisazobhekisisa kahle indaba yomhlaba ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi masakha izindlu siyakha izindlu ngendlela efanele.
There you heard it. The President Cyril Ramaphosa said the Department of Human Settlement had a nationwide program to build 1 million houses over the next 5 years. From what we have heard, he is very specific that these 1 million houses to be built are to be built nationwide. And interestingly, for whatever reasons, there have been many ideas as to whether President Cyril Ramaphosa said these houses needed to be built in Alexandra, yes or no. But all of us have heard it. He says there is a nationwide project by the Department of Human Settlements. He says there in Alexandra, listen carefully, they still have to look for the land so that when they build the houses, they build the houses in a proper way.
So it means what we're seeing here could have been distortion that came about because of editing. That if you edit at the wrong place, it could then be a misrepresentation of what exactly the statement was. Or even the use, as some have said, of the Nguni language, that here maybe there was also just that issue there.
I think the punctuation here was a problem. He says here in Alexandra, and then we're going to build 1 million houses. Listen carefully.
Yes.
So he was still explaining exactly what is it that's going to happen in Alexandra in anticipation of what he has said. So he was going to explain that they are going to look for the land, and then they're going to build and build carefully as they build in that land. But the punctuation, his sentence was flowing. So if you cut it in whichever way that favors your narrative at the time, some would say, indeed, he meant Alexandra. But from what we have heard, if you listen at the full clip, it is clear. He says the Department of Human Settlements had a project to build 1 million houses nationwide. And here in Alex, we're still looking for the land.
But there was also a tweet that was posted in 2019, which sought to clarify this very narrative. It was a long time ago. But beyond that, still the promise of 1 million stands. There was a promise of 1 million houses. So what is the status there?
Well, let's first begin with this tweet. I think 4 days after he had made that speech on the 11th of April 2019, he then responded because he had catched up that many people are somehow distorting this message. He says clear here that the project was meant to be built throughout all provinces, so it's a nationwide project. So, but he did make 1 million promise to build houses. So actually, now that we have dealt with the first part of it, which says, was it in Alexandra? From what we have listened, it was nationwide.
Yes.
But on the second point, he did mention that they were going to build 1 million houses nationwide in the next 5 years. Now, even that, if we look into the next graphic, even that was never met.
Yes.
So they had a 1 million national target, and it was never met. But according to what he said last week, answering the questions that were posed on him by Julius Malema in Parliament, he said only 240,000 were built during that 5-year period. So they were just above 24% of what they had promised. So specifically for Alexandra now, he said 40,000 houses were to be built in Frankenwald as well as in Linksfield for Alexandra residents. So now we get the answer. 40,000 houses were to be built. But it is not clear that from 2019 up to now, how many of those houses have been built specifically in Alexandra.
But that 240,000 figure is quite disappointing. That's from that 1 million to be only able to build 240, not even meeting at least halfway. And getting 500,000 houses built, especially because we know there's a great need for housing in South Africa.
We might as well say that the statement that was made at the time, President was on an electioneering mode. So when he made that promise could have been made out of the blue. At the same time, he just decided, so let me make this promise. I cannot be guaranteed of that. But judging by what I have read, what we have picked up, is that there has never been a 5-year term for any other president where more than 300,000 houses were ever built.
No, that's honestly quite unfortunate. But one also assumes, as we heard in Parliament, that there were other challenges. Beyond 2019, 2021, there was COVID. So much of the finances or resources probably were channeled towards COVID-19 and our response as a country. So one wonders if perhaps some of what we're seeing here can be attributed to that.
Yeah, but also if we check into what the president has said, it's the issue of the budget not being spent carefully by the agencies and the constructors that are awarded tenders. But also we have heard and we have seen widespread reports of those who get tenders, but they are not completing the work they're supposed to do. So this promise was grossly miscalculated, and according to Africa Check, South Africa's government built most houses in the financial year of 1998, 1999. That's the houses. That's the houses that were built. There were 235,635. So that's the highest number of houses that were ever built at a go. So we have never passed or surpassed that figure.
No, it's quite interesting. Perhaps to look at some of your graphics here. The one just talking about what we saw in 1994, February, between 2022, all the way to 2022.
Yeah, if we look into 1994, the Department of Human Settlements is saying, let's be careful of this, they're saying they have provided 5 million housing opportunities. They are not saying these are houses. So in these 5 million opportunities, it includes standalone houses, housing units in double-story buildings, plus serviced sites where people are allocated and they build for themselves. So all in all, from 1994 to 2022, 5 million housing opportunities. And in 2022, interestingly, only 38,632 houses were built. That's according to Department of Human Settlements. And 2023, 2024, they are saying they had a target of 53,655. And then also, in terms of what the Minister of Human Settlements then said last year in February, he said the National Housing Needs Register had about 2.5 million people who are in need, or 2.5 million households who are in need of a proper shelter above their heads.
So delivery of housing has honestly slowed down. What exactly is happening?
So it is clear that in the past 10 years, the Department of Human Settlements budget cuts, and the president says it's many factors, including acquiring land, inability to spend efficiently the allocated budgets. And the Department of Human Settlements further said, or it has been known that it has been marred by allegations of corruption, maladministration, irregular tenders, fraud. And this has led, as I said earlier, to awarding of tenders whereby the projects are not finished. More houses could have been built if the budget allocated in Department of Human Settlements was spent appropriately. There also has to be a concern about the quality of houses built. Some of those houses were even demolished. Mfundo.
Very interesting and quite disheartening at the same time that a lot of this has to do with corruption even. So quite problematic, but hopefully we'll see more pace insofar as delivering housing to the many South Africans that are in need. Thank you very much for explaining and verifying for us. That's Velemseni Mthiyane speaking to us.